Let's go. Look, it is time. No, literally, it's time. I'm finna unload, unpack, unlock, and unveil every attribute and ability that you possess for success. And the way I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna give you my piece of the pie, my perspective, my insight, and imagination. Look, there's so much wrapped up in the time that we have. And I want to make sure that you create the times of your life. So, this is what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to talk about some definitions of time that's going to help you see your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations face to face. And this is where we're going to start. So, first of all, I was like, man, this definition of time is pretty long, and you can read it if you want to. It says that I'm going to read it for you. Here we go. It says the measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. I was like, okay, that's solid. That's solid. But there's one that was more direct, and I'm going to lean on it a little bit more. It says this: the point or period in which something happens or occurs, right? So think about that. The point or period in which something happens or occurs. So this is the definition of time. Most cases, let's be honest, most cases, when we think about time, this is what we think about. We think about seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, and millennia, right? And so on and so forth, whatever, however big it gets, right? We think about time in that state. And so, but when we talk about the definition of time, we talk about points and periods in which something happens and occurs. And this is real, this is more connected to what time really is. I want to give you my piece of the pie on this because I know that it's going to spark a perspective in you. It's going to allow you to see your dreams, your goals, and aspirations face to face and be able to make an impact that you want to. And that's ideal for these conversations, right? So let's take a look at this. It says time is the point or period in which something occurs. So I want to highlight something, right? The time and period in which something happens or occurs. Like, so I want to talk about the something, whatever the something is, right? Something can be anything, right? It can be words, thoughts, deeds, feelings, emotions, whatever. Something could be anything. But then there's a statement that says occurs or happens, meaning that there's activity. And that's really the factor. The activity is what we're going to see really dominate this whole conversation. And so let's take a look at that, right? Let's take a look at the activity. We're talking about the time and we're talking about the activity. And when I brought those together, this is the idea that I received right here. It said, time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Well, that kind of took us back a little bit because we got to understand the other word essence. Like we kind of get a gist of what the essence is, but time is of the essence. This term has been used. A lot of people use it. It's I don't hear it as often as I used to when I was younger, but now it says time is of the essence. Normally they associate that with urgency. Hey, look, time is of the essence. Let's get going. Let's get to the action, right? Let's get to the action. And so this is what essence really means, though. It means the nature of a thing. So time is of the essence. Time is of the nature of a thing. Let's get to the activity. Let's get to the nature of this thing. Let's get to the functionality of the thing. Let's get to the operation of the thing, right? So when I talked about nature, that's exactly what I saw. It said the way something or someone operates or conducts itself. So when we talk about time and we talk about the period and point in which something occurs, we talk about the essence, the activity. This is what it's talking about. It's talking about how it operates and conducts itself. So naturally, this is how we see time. We see it in seconds, minutes, hours, because we normally talk about a point in period. And when we say a point in period, we associate that with school. We have periods during school. We talk about work. We got time spaces. We got to work 8 hours and we get 15-minute breaks and all this other stuff. When we talk about how many years we live and how many days are in a month, and we got a 90-day program and we got a 6-week program and we got a 6-month program. It took us a decade to get here, whatever the case may be. We utilize time in that capacity. And now we're seeing that, hey, you know what? We're associating time with all these numbers or measurements, but time is actually action, right? Because within all of those periods and points, there's something that is being done. it says time is the point and period in which things are occurring, but no, time is actually those occurrences, right? So when we talk about history, what we talk about is those actions that took place during that time, right? We talk about those actions that took place during those times. That's what makes history significant, is the actions that took place during the so-called time, the period and the point. And so that's what really defines time, is the action, the activity, the occurrences. And so when we look at that, I'm like, okay, well, how do we shift then? How do we shift our mindset when we look at that? Because naturally, we have this whole system that we utilize every single day. I'm not telling you, hey, get rid of your clock and your alarm clock and your schedule. I'm not telling you to do that. Those are very, very effective, man. I'm telling you to fill them up, actually. I'm actually telling you to fill them up. And this is how I want you to fill them up. Time management equals behavior management. Fill them up with behaviors. You have to fill up your time with behaviors. The way you're going to have the times of your life is by filling up your time with behaviors. And what does that even mean? It means I have to do things that's going to get me to my dreams, my goals, and my aspirations so I can see the time of my life. Whatever time that you're having in your life right now, your behaviors are producing it. Your behaviors are producing the times that you're having right now. See, I talk about this all the time. When people say, hey, Isaiah, what do you think about people's behaviors? I say, every decision that you make is decorating your life. It's decorating your life. So if you want to have the times of your life, you got to make better decisions. You got to do different things. So I want to read a little excerpt out of the book right here. And it's talking about this little section right here. It says, if you want to be successful, there's a nature you must have. There's a nature you must have to create successful times. There are behaviors that you must do. Like there's things that you got to do to create successful times. For health, it's the same way. For peace, it's the same way. War, it's the same way. There are things that we do to enact and produce these times in our lives, whether it's individually or collectively. This is what happens. We literally schedule behaviors. Managing our behaviors allows us to produce the times of our lives. Now, what does it take for you to be successful in your field, industry, or profession, right? You got to understand the behaviors that are necessary to get that outcome or desired result. It's up to you to understand the information and then implement that information. You got to have application, right? Information and application of the information yields a demonstration, and that demonstration is your management of your time. It's your management of your life. And so, one of my favorite things to do, there's a book, the book of literature that I always read. It's my favorite book of literature. It's so much information in it. It helps me guide my life so good, so good. And so this book is called the Bible. And in the Bible, there's another book. there's books inside the book, right? And it's called Ecclesiastes. And in Ecclesiastes, there's this scripture, and it's chapter 3, verses 1-8, right there. And in this scripture, and you can read it yourself. I'm not going to read it out, but you can read it yourself. In the scripture, it says virtually that there's a time for everything, right? There's a season for everything, and there's a time for all these things that are taking place. Everything that has a purpose, there's a time for it. So you got to start doing things on purpose. Like, so your time is what you purpose. It's what you do. It's the essence and your operation and your functionality. That's what your time really is. And so it talks about how, there's a time for to be born and a time to die. And you really don't have any control over that, right? You don't really have control over that component. But then that was the last thing that you didn't have control over when it talked about the times we had. It said it was a time to plant, and it was a time to pluck up, and it was a time to build, and it was a time to tear down, it was a time to laugh, and it was a time to cry. It was a time for everything. And you get to produce those times. I realized that in comparison to how we utilize the minutes, seconds, and hours and things in that magnitude, it didn't say anything about that in this communication. It talked about activity. It talked about action, and there's a translation here, right? There's a translation that, like, in that point and period, whatever point and period that you collectively put together, you have an action that you have to implement to create the times of your life. That's very powerful. And that gives you control. That gives you control that you never knew that you had. That gives you so much control over your end result or the trajectory of your life. That gives you so much control over how your relationships can actually end up. That gives you so much control over your business, your operations, your plans. That gives you so much control. And when you think like this, you go from time management to behavior management. Look, it's really big to understand that your behaviors are producing the times of your life. Like if you really want to see those moments, man, I talk about this with my family, man. It's something that me and my brother, man, and all my siblings and my mom, we grew up very humble, man, very humble. And to be able to take both of our families, like say, hey, talking to my brother, like we take both of our families and fly them out. And I was like, man, we're on a flight to Hawaii and we took everybody. We took our whole family out there. I said, what? I said, I mean, this wasn't something that we could even perceive when we were younger, but we did things, right? We had behaviors in place that produced this moment. We had behaviors in place that produced this moment. And guess what? You can do the same thing. I'm telling you that you can unload, unpack, unlock, unveil every attribute and ability that you possess for success. You can implement these things in your life and you can start moving towards the life that you desire. This is one of the biggest things I talk about all the time, man. I talk about how well, like you got to flip the switch on your actions. Action breeds action. Action breeds action. So if I want a good time, I have to do something to create it. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times people are waiting on time to happen to them. Man, do not let life pass you by not operating in life, by not being active in life. Make some exchanges, man. Make some exchanges. Do some things. Like really plant yourself in a position where you can produce and yield what you desire in life. And the way to do that is go from time management to behavior management. And what does that mean? I'm doing things, my behaviors are more valuable now. Like the things that I'm doing are more valuable within the time period, within the points of time, that within the measurements that we normally calibrate. We definitely have to start creating more valuable behaviors to produce the times of our lives. Now that tells us whether or not we want to continue to work in corporate America, whether we want to be a laborer, whether we want to get on stage and become a great orator, whether we want to be an author and write books, whether we want to run a business, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, we know that there have to be quality and more value in our behaviors now to produce the times of our lives. Look, this is 28 Power Keys to Success. This book right here, 28 Power Keys to Success. It's changing lives all the way around the world. And I wanted to impact your life as well for the better. Look, in the description, grab this book, click the link, grab this book, read this, apply the information, and see your life change for the better. Look, you are great, so continue to unload, unpack, unlock, unveil every attribute and ability that you possess for success and operate in a manner that you have the times of your life. I hope you